Hi, my name is Mary Beal, and I'm responding to clinical practice number 2. Over the last few weeks, I've had the opportunity to job shadow our middle school principal and our district's elementary school principal. As a two-school district, these are the two principals that operate within our district. While working with them, job shadowing them, and learning from them, I observed numerous different things. First, behaviors with students were handled in two separate ways. The middle school principal had a much more laid-back approach, one where he reasoned with students, felt like he had a command of students and a relationship with students. So when dealing with behaviors, it was much more on the same level playing field. When in the elementary district, or at our elementary site, our elementary principal handled behaviors in a much different way. The fashion in which she handled them was one where she was authoritative, and the students were to abide, which both had their pluses and minuses. Both seemed to have achieved their goal of handling the behaviors, and both offered ways for students to not only learn from their mistakes, but to plan to make better choices in the future. I also observed both when dealing with staff issues. At our district, there has been a lot of staff turmoil as far as dealing with one another, as well as dealing with administrators, as we've had a high turnover of administrators in the past few years. Both administrators... Hi, my name is Mary Beal, and I'm responding to clinical practice number 2. Over the course of the last few weeks, I've had the opportunity to job shadow both our middle school and our elementary school principal. During this time, I observed different aspects of each job. One, I observed the way both handle behaviors within students. 2, I handled the way that they deal with conflict between staff members, as well as issues that might present themselves to staff members. And 3, how they operate underneath the superintendent and to achieve the other goals outside of what you see on a day-to-day basis on a campus. To start with the behaviors, both principals offered different ways of handling these behaviors. At the middle school, where I thought language would be more formal, and the relationship would be more authoritative, it was actually the opposite. Our middle school principal has developed relationships with students, one of which he can reason with students. So when they do come into his office, he's already previously established a relationship, communicated with them, and found a common ground of which they can build upon when the students come into his office for a behavioral issue. Our elementary school principal also has the same. However, when I thought that an elementary school principal would have much more informal language, hers happened to be more formal than our middle school principals. When students came in for a behavior concern, she was a more authoritative figure, establishing right from wrong, setting a clear consequence for actions, and sending the students with a plan on how to make better choices in the future. I also observed the way they communicated with staff. One, our elementary school principal has a very open door policy. Staff members walk in and out of her office freely, expressing concerns, asking advice, and seeking assistance at times throughout the day. Our middle school principal also has that similar policy. However, he is hardly ever found inside his office. Instead, he makes his presence known while wandering through classrooms, hallways, participating in lunchtime and break time activities, and being present before and after school. Our elementary school principal also does the same, but due to her policy with an open door policy where teachers can find her all the time, she tends to hover in one zone, making herself available to staff members as they need it throughout the day. Finally, during my observations and job shadowing, both of my principals had opportunities to meet with district staff, discuss plans and guidelines for both schools, and the way that the schools will be planned in the future. It was interesting during these meetings, so-called collaborative meetings, where principals brought their ideas, their suggestions, and their hopes for the upcoming school years, and instead were met with a schedule or an agenda already presented by the superintendent. At the end of the meeting, which should have been a collaborative meeting, the agenda that the superintendent had already presented was the one that was chosen. To me, that was interesting. It seemed as there was a prior agenda, even though it was not previously spoken about, it was already agreed upon. During this time, I also had the opportunity to go to a board meeting. I often go to board meetings as I am a member of a union. During this board meeting, however, the topic of special education came up. In our district, this has been a very hot topic, one of which is also hot across the state of California. Are we serving our students correctly? Are we meeting the designated minutes? And what can be done as a district to make sure all students' needs are met? Again, at this meeting, the public had the opportunity to comment. They commented their feelings, their observations, what they're experiencing with their own child with special needs. When it came time to making decisions about students with special needs, errors that may have already been made, the board members and the superintendent did not give any credit to the public comment time. Instead, they went on as previously noted as in their agenda and made decisions based on the evidence they already had. I understand that the process is that public can present information during a board meeting, and that can be revisited at a later time. But to me, it seems interesting that board members and a superintendent would continue with the previous agenda and not hear and take in public information. What I believe should have been done is to table a conversation, to table an idea, and to reevaluate it in a different way. 3 takeaways that I've had from this position is, it's a lot harder than it looks on a piece of paper. You need to be available as a leader to your students, your parents, your staff members, and your district staff. You are needed in all areas. And when you need to make a presence for one, it may take away from another. So it's all about balance. Number 2, establishing a relationship with students and staff members. Prior to dealing with them in a conflict or a situation that may be uncomfortable is highly important. When you take the time to make that relationship, when you take the time to establish a care, a concern, a validation with all of these members of the staff, members of your students, and members of the community, then when you do need to deal with a situation that may be less than pleasant, it seems to go over a little bit better, where everyone is able to communicate, have a say, and remain level-headed. Third, I have decided and taken away that board meetings are an opportunity for the public to share information, and that in the future, I hope, board members would take this information and learn from it, work from it, and really take what their community members have to say to heart, as they are the parents, the members, the community support of which our district runs. Thank you.